And welcome back to the Psalm 40 Project. We're here with Pastor Mike.
I say that because seminary was just a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah.
And I loved, I think I loved every bit of my seminary career.
Wow.
I think being in Turkey just made me hungry for everything that I was being taught. I was able to take the theory that professors were talking about and see the practical applications for why we were learning things. That was really helpful for me personally as a learner. And then along the way, what happened, and it was really church history class, where God used that class to kind of open my eyes to the missional potential of a parish church.
Okay.
And something I hadn't, for whatever reason, hadn't thought as much about during my time in Turkey.
Yeah, well, because it was a different environment for you, right?
Yeah, and I, when I read the Great Commission, I had always thought about that word "go."
Yeah.
Like, as in, you got to cross bodies of water, or you got to cross language barriers, or go, and it does mean that. But again, Greek.
But you
it's
also
a participle, so it's as you're going. You
got to start somewhere too.
You got to start somewhere.
And the Great Commission also expands, so there's got to be a center point.
Yes, that's right. Well, yeah,
right?
Exactly. Particularly in Acts, right? Jerusalem, Samaria.
Yep.
Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, however that goes. So
seminary is forming.
Church history changes my attitude about local church. I'm much more open to staying and, if that's what God would have, although still thinking that we would go overseas. I finished seminary. Lisa's in seminary at this point, so I need to, our preference, let's say that, our preference and where I'm putting my energy into accepting interviews are churches that are within West Michigan to make a commute for Lisa to finish her degree possible.
Yeah.
So I'm preaching at churches, I'm interviewing at churches, at a time when it was really good to be a seminary graduate.
Okay.
There were more vacancies than graduates.
Yeah, that's definitely the opposite of what it is right now.
I know, I say that with my heart sort of breaking for you. I know your class and other classes, it's just not the case.
Nope, we actually have a very difficult time.
Yes.
One of my classmates, it took him a year to find a church. Some of my classmates have been out 2 years and are still looking, so.
See, in seminary, some seminarians, even though there were churches wanting to, call them even before they were approved by Synod that time.
We heard those stories.
You heard those stories, yeah.
They told us, don't be looking at churches until after that's
it was legendary. Yeah.
Okay, so just to help us kind of focus in where you're at right now in your call is that you've experienced seminary. It's opened your eyes to the possible mission of the
local
mission work of a church. Lisa's in seminary. How do you what is the story of getting to LaGrave at that point?
So the story of getting to LaGrave is this. So I'm finishing up seminary. I'm stopped one day in the hall by Don Biker, who is the field education director.
Okay.
I think it's a different title now, but he was field education. He stops me, he says, "Hey, can I send your ministry profile to a church who's looking for an outreach pastor in the Grand Rapids area? They're keeping it on the down low at the moment. Do you trust me enough to just, they're asking for any people I thought might fit the bill, fit the job description." I said, "Well, I'm graduating, so of course, please send my ministry profile.
I need a job."
I completely forget about it. And completely forget that we had that conversation. A month or two later, I get a phone call. It's Bob Oddie calling for the search committee at LaGrave Church. We're looking for a minister of outreach. We received your ministry profile. Would you come for an interview? Of course.
Yep.
You're about to graduate. You don't turn down an interview.
All the interviews possible.
That's right. So I get off the phone, and I'm kind of laughing. I said, Lisa, you wouldn't believe who that was. That was Mr. Oddie from South, and he's on this search committee, and they want me to come for an interview.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I come to the interview thinking, based on some past now, right? I'm going to circle back on something. I always thought of need as an important thing in terms of call to. Where does the church need you?
Okay.
So that comes into play here because, as I said, there were more vacancies than there were seminarians graduating, and this was a position for either an ordained or unordained person.
Okay.
And so I go into the interview thinking, well, but isn't the need for the church for people to fill pulpits and so forth?
So right now the need is that they need preachers,
right?
Not ministers of outreach.
And I had people tell me that, like, you shouldn't be going to something like that. We need preachers. So that was being reinforced in other ways. I went to the interview and nervous, of course, and it was what my memory of the interview was this. I walked away from the interview very enthusiastic because the people in that interview were asking really good questions about how does a church engage with the community. We're surrounded by this Heartside community, and what's your experience with that community? And I had quite a bit of experience actually, because I had volunteered but much of my college days. I volunteered at Dégagé.
Oh, okay.
So I was familiar with Heartside, and I really walked away thinking, wow, these are really good people who care about this community. They're interested in exploring together what that could look like. And really kind of thinking, God, I kind of hope I get called back for another interview. That would be really great. So at the same time, I'm kind of interviewing with a church up north, and that's going really well too. And kind of thinking again, well, that's what the church needs, and so forth.
That's a lead preaching
that's a
position,
solo pastor kind of position. You know, kind of teach the catechism and all the stuff.
Yep.
So in that second interview, we started talking about other possibilities of other people group besides just Heartside people that LaGrave could reach, and so we were talking about young people in particular, and there were books being written, and I think it's still the case too that there were people interested in kind of more traditional focused churches. They were being drawn to that historic expression of the Christian faith, and so we talked about that and what's our potential with college students and so forth. So again, after that second interview, I thought even more, wow, I kind of really like this.
Yeah.
What was happening in my solo pastor sort of conversations is that I found myself talking more and more about discipleship and how excited I am about discipleship and seeing people nurtured up in the faith, and
less about the preaching.
Less about preaching and preparing worship services and doing those sorts of things. So it was really interesting how God was using those conversations that were happening side by side to kind of make me excited and very interested in the LaGrave call. So after that second interview, I was invited to meet with the council. At that point, I guess the search committee had recommended to council sort of a solo person on the just me. So by the time I interviewed with the council, I was the only candidate. Interviewed with the congregation and got the call.
Nice.